Jesus did not deem equality with God something to be grasped. These words came from our second reading from St. Paul. And in them, Paul is touching upon the foundational tension in humanity's relationship with God. Namely, is he trustworthy? And this tension is playing out in the entire Passion narrative with a particular intensity, beginning from the moment Jesus walks into the garden. The language of grasping and equality with God is evocative of the story of Eden, when the serpent enticed Eve to question the Father's goodness, to suspect that maybe he was holding out on them, and to conclude that if they were really to be like God, they're just going to have to get it for themselves. And so she grasps for the fruit. But on Mount Olives, Jesus takes a radically different approach. Confronted by his own mortality, with every natural impulse to flee from death raging inside of his body, he calls upon his Father in the most intimate of terms. Abba, Father, not what I will, but what you will. It's important for us to see the difference between those two perspectives, because it's precisely the grasping and the not trusting that is what makes the Passion possible. Every major character is engaging in some form of suspicion and self-reliance. The religious leaders who are unwilling to let Christ in their hearts because of what it might mean for their power and their way of life. Pontius Pilate unable to do the right thing even when it's obvious because of what it might cost him politically and his mortal flesh. The mob's own cowardice as each bows to the zeitgeist of the moment, and everyone else doing anything else but the Father's will, out of fear and self-preservation. And yet it's Christ's relentless confidence in the Father that compels him up the hill and onto the wood, with all the horrors of Psalm 22 described of the cross event, taking that on and all that that would mean. It's incredible. But what makes the Father trustworthy, what sort of seals the deal, is the resurrection. Psalm 22, as descriptive as it is of the crucifixion, even though it's drafted 1,000 years before, it doesn't actually end with death, it ends with life. And so too, in the same way, Jesus, as we know, is not going to stay in the tomb. So when the Father raises Jesus from the tomb, it's not so much a vindication of Jesus per se, or even his innocence. Of course, it is at least those things. But it is really the vindication of his trust in the Father's goodness, that it wasn't misplaced, that he isn't a fool in having done it, and it is a trust that is meant to heal the fear and suspicion that every one of us has in our hearts, especially when we face our own mortality. 2 weeks ago, my uncle received word that he only has a few more months to live, and he's in his mid-60s. So this news naturally sent shockwaves through my family, and there's nothing he can do about it. The clock is ticking. What this means for him, of course, is that while life around him is going to be a lot more complicated than it was a month ago, life within him is going to get real simple. As he enters the Gethsemane in his heart, he has to make a choice. Do I trust the Father, even into suffering and death? Or do I not? Am I going to press into him with all that I am? Or am I going to flee from him in the scandal I now feel? So this last week I wrote him a letter, because we're not supposed to contact him, right? That's sort of the rule right now. So I write him this letter to let him know. As deep as that question is, it's actually not unique to him. It's a question every one of us must face. The only luxury that we might have compared to him is just simply time, not outcome. And it's really not that much more time at all. So while the Passion of Christ has much to say to us, and I'm told by the missal and the instructions to say very little, it has at the least to say this: the Father is trustworthy, and those who trust him even unto death, for them life awaits.